Trade Organization in Geneva, representing the country across various platforms, especially in global trade negotiations. So, a wide experience in governance, trade policy, economic administration. So, a whole lot for all of us to learn from. If I may request our session chair to take the session forward. Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And first of all, I would like to thank the department for putting together this event and welcome all of you. I see a lot of students. I was told that they are participating in it, and we have a mix of industrialists and few representatives from universities as well. So let me first take this opportunity to introduce the panel and talk a bit about the topic. So to start with, the topic here for today's session is climate financing and carbon trading, challenges and opportunities. Now it's such a wide topic that it is very difficult to do justice in 1 hour 15 minutes. I was telling that on this topic, experts can go on maybe for a couple of sessions and maybe even for a couple of days. Knowing the time constraint, I would just put the things in perspective that where do we stand? Like every challenges, there are opportunities. So here also the topic is very right that we don't have only the challenges, but we have the opportunities as well. And for that opportunity, it is for all the stakeholders, whether it is the industry, whether it is the financial institutions, whether it is the academia or the state or the national government, we can take advantage of that. Then the second thing what we need to understand during COVID time, this phrase was very popular, that no one is safe till everyone is safe. In my previous assignment at World Trade Organization, being Indian ambassador to the World Trade Organization, we coined this phrase, slightly getting motivated through that phrase in Committee on Trade and Environment. And we said, India said, no one is green till everyone is green. And that has very significant impact on the understanding and the objective of these programs and these discussions. The third one, what we are talking about in the global context is AAA. We have few people from financial world. We know the rating system. No institution will be happy with a single A rating, and we like to have AAA rating. In this scenario also, we are looking at AAA rating concept, but it is slightly different. The AAA rating here is availability, accessibility, and affordability. So some product and the climate mitigation, adaptation, or finance side may be available in the world. And we get single A rating for that, and we say that we are fine with that. No. It has to be available, it has to be accessible, and it has to be affordable. And then only we can go back to the mantra of no one is green till everyone is green. And the last thing which is very important in the trade world, because ultimately, again, carbon is not restricted to a boundary. So it has to be across the border. So we heard a lot about FTA, that free trade agreements. But here it is something different, which is FTT, which is finance, trade, and technology. So only when these three things will come together, we can hope for a better world. And with these words, let me introduce the sequence of speakers. I'm really humbled because till now we are getting old. Till now, most of the time we were sitting there. And I'm privileged to moderate a session with such distinguished panelists. So first we will start with Mr. Deepak Srivastava. Mr. Deepak Srivastava is a Principal Chief Conservator of Forests and he is also the Chief Mission Director for the Green Tamil Nadu and Wetland Mission. Welcome, sir. Our second speaker will be, we have slightly changed the sequence based on the internal discussion with the panelists to give you a seamless flow of presentations. Our second speaker will be Mr. Ram Babu. He is associated with Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, and he plays a key role in policy advocacy and business development initiatives. Our next speaker, that is the third speaker in the sequence, will be from Asian Development Bank, Mr. Brij Mohan. He is a senior climate change officer at the Asian Development Bank. He is specializing in climate adaptation and mitigation projects across Asia. And then we have gender neutrality in the panel, though not majority. We would have loved to have the majority, but we are supported. And the fourth speaker is Ms. Ulka Kelkar. She is the Executive Program Director for Climate, Economics and Finance at WRI India. She has 25 years of experience in climate change research, outreach and capacity building. And last but not the least, we have a young panelist, Ishrat Jahan. She is a development sector professional with over 15 years of experience in policy, governance and administrative reform across diverse sectors. And she is the South Asia head of World Economic Forum IT organizations. So we will follow this sequence. I will request panelists to restrict their intervention and presentation in 9 to 10 minutes. And then we will leave last 10 minutes or 15 minutes for any questions from the audience if they have on the presentations or topic related to the presentations. So I hand over now the podium to Mr. Deepak Srivastava. You feel comfortable whether you want to deliver from sitting on your chair, or we would be convenient to go up to the podium. Thank you.
A very good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks to the Department of Environment, Climate Change and Forest for giving me this wonderful opportunity. As you all know, because the time is very short, we cannot, I have to set the background of it also and take you forward. So without wasting any time, we all are aware that decarbonization is our main strategy, because if we want to pursue and achieve net zero, decarbonization of the sectors, there are 7 important sectors, vital sectors, where decarbonization is the only answer. But the carbon credits would also be required to offset the emissions in the hard to abate sectors. So therefore, this carbon as a commodity and carbon as a trading comes into picture, which I will be dwelling upon. First and foremost thing is that I am restricting my discussion mostly on the nature-based solutions, and particularly that ARR, afforestation, reforestation and revegetation, because of the Green Tamil Nadu mission which I am presently heading. I would like to make you all aware that the recent UN emission gap report 2024 has indicated that FOLU sector, that is agriculture, forestry and other land use, is going to play a very vital role in bridging the gap between the current emissions happening with the current policy and the 1.5 degree pathway and 2 degree pathway policy. But 1.5 degree pathway I won't be discussing, because 2024 was the year For the first time, the entire year, we breached 1.5 degree centigrade temperature. So I will be dwelling more on the gap between the current policies and the 2-degree pathway. In that, if you see the UN emission gap report of 2024, in 2030, with the 2-degree pathway and the current policy, the gap is 16 gigatons. And if you see the report, the FOLU sector contributes 7.3 gigatons out of the 16 gigatons. And if you go to 2035 projection, the emission gap between the current policy and 2-degree pathway is 21 gigatons, and FOLU sector is projected to offset 10 gigatons out of it. So very, very important, vital. These are the assets which we have created under the Green Tamil Nadu mission. All kinds of, it's a terrestrial also, it's a blue carbon also, mangroves, seagrasses, and almost 60 million seedlings after taking into account the casualty. It is still existing in the field. So a very good asset has been created, and Tamil Nadu is, stage is set for the carbon crediting of these kind of assets. Now, since student communities are there, and there are future generations, so therefore for their information, this kind of, it's a carbon credit cycle, you can say, where the state of Tamil Nadu, as far as nature-based solutions and particularly ARR project, we are at stage 1 now. We are in project designing phase. We will be soon designing our project with the help of the project developers. So therefore, then next phase will come issuance phase, and the last phase will come as a credit retirement phase. So these are the 3 phases, because our future generation must be aware that how this carbon credit cycle works. So that's why I deliberately included this slide, seeing the student community yesterday in large numbers. Now, the way forward for the Tamil Nadu carbon credits, particularly from ARR, we are banking on ex-ante credits and pre-purchase agreements, not appraisals. It's a pre-purchase agreements. So now you see that ex-ante, because we are planting, future emissions will be offset by the planting, but in anticipation, we are entering into the agreement. We will be soon entering into the agreement with the carbon project developers for the carbon portfolio management of the assets which have created. Though ex-ante credits and pre-purchase agreements is having the high risk, low price is also a phenomenon because it has not matured. So therefore, when you compare with the ex-post credits, it fetches less price now. In future, it will give more prices when the plantation matures. And there is an attempt for many carbon project developers to secure a place in the carbon market, because and as a project developer and as a government, we are also interested that some carbon project developer approaches us or bid in our bidding this thing, and then they sign the offtake agreement, and then therefore they can carry on forward and credits can be generated for the state of Tamil Nadu. But now the problem is there are a lot of challenges which has cropped up in the carbon market, and the most important challenge is that your carbon project has to be a very high integrity project, and if it is not a high integrated project, it is not going to serve its purpose of the climate goals. It will suffer from deficiencies, and so much of repetition is also attached if the high carbon credit projects are not formulated. So that is also a problem with the carbon projects. So therefore, here the additionality and permanency, as a project developer from this government side, we have to ensure that additionality of the project is there. We have to monitor that it is a permanent nature also. The carbon is not getting leakages. It is not getting leaked from the adjoining areas. And that is a big challenge. And the most important is it should have co-benefits, not only carbon. Carbon is a commodity, emission removal or emission reduction has to happen, but co-benefits like biodiversity, water, and other climate goals are also required to be met out of that carbon project so that it becomes a high integrity project. Community involvement is very important. Earlier we used to talk about the free prior informed consent, but now it is mandatory that the local communities which we are engaging in the carbon projects, the information given to the local communities should be accurate, should be accessible, should be appropriate, should be total, and should be transparent. If we don't meet out these things, then our carbon projects are not going to be very of high integrity. And one plan Vivo, which is there, where the project is getting registered for the issuance of the credit, it is mandatory that 60% of the revenues flows to the local communities. So therefore, we have to be very careful from the from the stage of the project registration, project inception itself, that we maintain this high integrity. Now, I would like to show you that how I have culled out this report from ecosystem marketplace, and I have compared that how this project carbon credit issuance and carbon credit retirements, what is the scenario as far as forest and land use is concerned, and energy efficiency is concerned, and household devices are concerned. Because I wanted to compare with the forestry and land use, so I am finding that the retirements in case of forest and land use is okay, it is more than satisfactory. But thing is that these retirements may be from the risky projects also, and lot of anonymity is involved in this, where the anonymous companies are getting the credits retired because of the reputational risk, because projects are not of high integrity. So that is also leading to more number of retirements. But if you see the energy efficiency, there also retirements are round about 50% like that. And if you see household and community devices, there also it is just, it's on the lower side. So therefore, what I am trying to say here is, in all the sectors, the issuance is more than the retirements. Issuance is more than the retirements. So therefore, this is a cause of concern. Because when credit retirements doesn't happen, it means that the climate goal, the purpose of the climate goal is not served. The purpose of getting closer to the net zero is not served. So as a project inception side or as a government side, we have to take into consideration these things also, so that we don't make errors in designing our projects. These are the recent trends in carbon trading, where the most important is the role of Integrity Council of Voluntary Carbon Market and core carbon principles and voluntary carbon market initiatives. Now, this has come into picture to infuse the element of integrity in the carbon projects. Now, the companies, these are the IC Integrity Council is guiding the companies to identify the high integrity carbon projects and also assessing the methodologies. So whatever was there in the compliance carbon market, the regulations was there, same regulations are coming into the voluntary carbon markets also. So we need to be very, very careful with our projects. And also, one more important thing is coming, that now the independent rating is being awarded by the private agencies like Silvera, Calix, and B0. So they will be rating out the integrity of the projects. So therefore, with a lot of regulations coming into the VCM also, so we need to be very, very careful in designing the project so that it leads to, you can say that, issuance, and subsequently the credits gets retired, so that the ultimate climate objective goals are solved. Since the time is very short, I wanted to add some more few things, because there are a lot of eminent panelists lined up for deliberating. So I'm ending by this thing, and if any questions will be there, I will taking that in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Deepak, and sorry to rush you, but we have to manage time, and therefore now I request our second speaker, Mr. Ram Babu, to please take the floor. And have a watch. I will signal you 1 minute before your time is up, and that will be the 8th to 9th minute. Thank you.
Okay. Fine. Thanks a lot. All of us are aware that we need to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade, at least by 2050 to 2070. It all depends on, how much you can emit, at what probability you can limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. To be able to do that, we all know that what carbon budget we already have, and we need to live within that carbon budget if we want to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. In that, of course, the very, very important thing that in the morning quiz also, many of the students have answered, there is a Pacific Ocean, there is a Amazon forest, there is a mud flat, there is a mangrove forest. All of them have a significant amount of carbon stock, including the previous session which talked about the soil carbon stock or permafrost. Most of it has to be protected so that we should not lose that carbon stock into the atmosphere to actually lose on the carbon budget. So all such solutions, which either increase the nature to take in the carbon dioxide or nature to protect its own stock are called nature-based solutions and agri-based solutions. And I think a significant amount of discussion has already gone on. But importantly, I don't say more importantly, but significantly, the economic activity that we conduct, the energy that we produce, the cement that we use, the steel that we use, all of it follows certain production processes. All these production processes are carbon intensive. We need to change the complete economic activity. I'm saying complete. Almost everything that you can think of as an economic activity. That means your cement factories in Tamil Nadu, the way they are producing cement, it is not renewable energy. The way they are producing cement from the limestone has to be changed. When we construct our buildings, whether we would like to use the cement or some alternate materials that do not emit or have an embedded carbon dioxide, we need to think. When we are consuming electricity, how that electricity is produced, is it by renewables or by non-renewables? We need to think, we need to shift. The way we produce steel, we consume steel, aluminum, almost everything that we can think about as an economic activity has to change if we want to live within the budget imposed by limiting the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade. This throws up a significant financial challenge. It is estimated to manage the energy transition and the industrial decarbonization and a significant amount of protecting the carbon stock would require a few $10 plus trillion globally. So it can be achieved by two ways. One way that you can achieve is that already we are investing approximately $5 to $7 trillion in our traditional activity. How do we reorient the traditional activity to an activity that actually mitigates the GHG emissions? So how do we divert the money that is going into oil exploration or to fund the blast furnace, basic oxygen furnace of steel making or the cement plants or any other activity? How do we turn that money into, or to the agriculture, normal practices of agriculture, how do we turn all of it into an activity that actually reduces greenhouse gas emissions? That is one of the very, very important challenges. On top of it, a significant amount of activity still not viable and technology is available, but the activity, for example, if I want to have 24/7 renewable power in Tamil Nadu, it has still a viability gap. I need to produce it by renewables, no viability gap. I can produce it cheaper than the coal, the solar power or the wind power. But if I want to store that solar power and wind power so that I can use that solar power during the nights, if I want to use batteries or want to use pumped storage to store that energy and use it in the night, there is a viability gap. And this viability gap need to be funded. If this viability gap need to be funded, it requires another kind of carbon kicker, okay, that will be able to fund that particular viability gap. So there are different activities in the climate adaptation and climate mitigation, and the activities that require to protect the carbon stores and the activities that can reduce the carbon flows, industrial activity and majority of the economic activity, require different kinds of financial interventions and different levels of carbon price. And also it depends on which actor is taking that money and for what purpose, what is his background, what is the scale of money, all that, okay, has a different kinds of climate finance instruments, okay, that we need to consider. So, as I said before, the climate finance, there are flows I don't want to take you through because I don't want to get into those details, but you require climate finance for climate adaptation, which is more like a public finance. Very little of private finance is possible there. Then you have a significant amount of activity, which is climate mitigation, and climate mitigation that replaces the present economic activity with a new economic activity, low carbon economic activity, that possibly can have both public finance and a private finance, and that is where that mix plays a role and the carbon price plays a role. Now let me take you through the Tamil Nadu's context. As you all know, Tamil Nadu has been a leader in the renewable energy activity, and it has an excellent wind resource. And even in the solar, it has been extremely good in its activity. And Tamil Nadu has recently outlined even its storage policy and also the hydrogen policy. So there are significant number of projects that are coming up in Tamil Nadu, which are projects of pumped storage. I think pumped storage activity in Tamil Nadu is coming up something like a 6 gigawatt of pumped storage activity, and around 5 million tons per annum green hydrogen and green ammonia projects that have been announced in Tamil Nadu. And majority of it requires new kind of finance, and most of these finance can either be funded by the first movers in the Europe, and if they actually Trump going out of Trump reneging on IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, in fact, can turn out to be a boon for a number of players that are actually be able to produce green molecules, green hydrogen, green ammonia, green methanol, or sustainable aviation fuel and supply to the world. Because IRA was one particular instrument which was not very, very favorable to us as manufacturers of green molecules, because the kind of subsidies that the IRA has announced, it was most of the manufacturing was shifting, green manufacturing was shifting to US. If the green manufacturing slows down in US, in fact, it can become an excellent opportunity. And another important thing I also want to say is that if the US delays 4 years of implementation of the climate action, and after that 4 years it wants to come back and join the climate action, okay, it will significantly increase the carbon prices, and that would also kickstart a significant amount of activity in the carbon area. So I just wanted to discuss the energy transition opportunity in Tamil Nadu. You are thinking about significant amount of pumped storage activity. I think pumped storage, all of you understand. We are not here talking about the batteries, okay, which store the energy, okay, which will have the life cycle problems, disposal problems, etc. And also they are short duration storage systems. In long duration storage system, when the renewable energy is in excess, you pump up the water. When you require the energy, you pump down the water. And these systems are built at gigawatt level. And Tamil Nadu, I think, I understand that it has a projects up to 7 gigawatts of pumped storage systems. And my company, Greenco, is also putting up a few pumped storage systems in Tamil Nadu. And further to that, Tamil Nadu is also putting up a significant amount of green hydrogen capacity, 5 million tons per annum green hydrogen capacity. Gentari, Petronas subsidiary, and Greenco, which is my company, and also there is one more company, all together have bidded for more than something like a 7 million tons per annum green hydrogen, green ammonia capacity. And yeah. Yeah. Further to energy transition, you require a lot of money for also industrial decarbonization, whether it is your cement industry, steel industry, etc., etc. As I said earlier, much of it requires a carbon price, and much of the carbon price can be supported in many activities that I discussed, from the Paris Climate Agreement inspired Article 6 markets, okay, which produce what the carbon credits, which we call today as internationally transferable mitigation outcomes, ITMOs, and whose prices are likely to bridge the viability gaps that we are talking about. Hence, there is a significant opportunity here using that carbon price and using multiple other mechanisms which other panelists are also going to speak about. We will be able to possibly address the finance requirements of both energy transition and industrial decarbonization. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Rambabu. And with the first two presentations, it is amply clear that even with best of the intention, if financial resources is not there, then nothing can happen with our best of our efforts. So let us hear from our next panelist, Mr. Brij Mohan from Asian Development Bank. And
first of all, I would like to thank Government of Tamil Nadu, also Department of Climate Change inviting ADB for this third climate summit. In my presentation, I would be focusing on, just providing the opportunities and challenges we have in terms of mobilizing climate finance. I would also like to discuss some of the innovative financing instruments which MDBs like ADBs has already explored and implemented into our operation. So first of all, I would like to say here that mobilizing sufficient climate finance is very critical in terms of if we wanted to really transition or support the transition of the low carbon and climate resilient pathways. Let me highlight I think the similar slides already been presented by my co-panelist, but I would like to highlight a couple of points here that if we look at this study which reveals that the climate finance has grown, when we look at the last 5 years, it has been doubles. In 2018, it was like 70 billion of investment in the climate finance. Looking at the current landscape, it is reached to $1.5 trillion of climate finance investment globally. The study also reveals that we have still investment gaps, huge investment gaps, and it is estimated that climate finance should increase to the 500% of the climate finance needed if we really wanted to achieve 1.5 degree scenarios. The critical points which has been highlighted in this study that the economies, right, when it comes to distribution of the climate finance, it really varies, right? The developing nations, especially India, they're still struggling to, access the climate finance when it comes to the international one. It also reveals that the adaptation finance is really lagging, where we need the money or investment most at the current juncture. For example, $1.5 trillion of climate investment, which was mobilized in 2023, 90% has been mobilized to the mitigation activities and only 5% to the adaptations, and remaining 5% to the projects which has both mitigation adaptations component. It also highlights that the major climate finance, when it comes to the mitigation, it is really focusing on the energy sector, transport sector, and the building sector. But as my co-panelist also highlighted, FLU, waste, industry sector, they have huge potential when it comes to the mitigation. So I think we should be really focusing on mobilizing more climate finance into these, these sectors. I would like to highlight that because at the COP 2029, MDBs are coming along. They are making, joint efforts, and they have made cumulative commitments at the COP 2029s to provide at least $120 billion of investment when it comes to low and medium economies. And they are also targeting about $42 billion of investment adaptation projects. And all the MDBs also has committed to provide about $65 million of investment to the private sector. But like you look at all the pledges, right? These are all been increasing. We have climate finance flows is also been increasing, but still I think we still have structural and operational challenges when it comes to mobilizing climate finance. Some of the challenges which I highlighted here is that definitely we don't have sufficient public finance available. So there has to be private sector participation if we really wanted to mobilize needed finance to the climate projects. Many climate projects actually, they really have all high risk, whether it comes to having a long payback periods. So all the private investors perceive that high risk and they're afraid to make investment in the climate project. So that is also being one of the challenges here to mobilize more climate finance into these climate-centric projects. Various financing mechanisms we do have, but I think they also kind of a lag, or they are working somehow in the silos, right? The coordination lag is there among the stakeholders. So all these fragmented approach, when it comes to the financing mechanisms, that really leads to the inefficiencies, right? Whether it is like double counting on the efforts or misalignment opportunities. So all these issues are there. And this point I already highlighted that we have to have, more or scaled up finance, especially looking at the adaptation projects. There's another challenge we do have where it comes to the capacity when, especially if we look at the financing institutions, they also kind of lack of the specialized knowledge and expertise to design, assess and implement climate-centric projects. I think that is also we have realized. So let me just quickly cover some of the few innovative mechanisms to mobilize climate financing into the climate projects, which MDBs have explored, and they are still exploring some of the solutions to mobilize more finance to the climate projects. I think it is very clear that MDBs, all multilateral bank, including ADB, they can provide concessional finance, low interest capital, especially when it comes to the private players, private investors, because private investors, they see huge risk, right? They are investing in the climate projects. So all these concessional financing will be beneficial if, it can be provided to the, private investors. Second would be definitely MDB's blended finance instruments. They can also support projects to enhance the financial viability of the climate-focused project so that more funding can be arranged from different sources. We all know that PPP, they also has huge potential when it comes to unlocking funds for the climate actions. But definitely we have to have a coordinated approach when it comes to PPP partnerships. They should have aligned priorities. They should have a, firm contract agreements between these players, public and private players. And also MDBs and financing institutions also use leverage green bonds type of instruments to provide climate aligned financing. And it also really ensure that climate outcomes should be delivered to these climate projects. MDBs also have very extensive experience while working with the global funds, such as Green Climate Fund. We have Climate Investment Fund. We also have Global Financing Facility, and there are many bilateral players and multilateral players where MDBs like ADB reaching out and kind of getting a co-financing from these global funds and these partners to mobilize more funding. Actually, I wanted to highlight, because ADB-like institutions, we see value, while partnering with these global funds, so that we can mitigate so many risks attached to the climate-centric project, whether it is related to the market risk, or we may have regulatory risk, policy risk, technology risk attached to all these new technology or climate-focused projects. I just wanted to share that ADB has mobilized about $1.2 trillion of co-financing from the GCF, and this $1.2 trillion of investment has further mobilized $5.3 trillion from the ADB financing itself, and about $2 billion from the other financing partners. So that is how we can leverage all these global funds and and provide solution to the climate projects. I also quickly wanted to highlight here that ADB has very long-standing experience when it comes to participating in the carbon market solutions or market-based instrument. Since 2007, we are running a carbon market programs, and under this program, we are providing technical assistance to the projects and to the member countries, to the investors we have in the mitigation projects, as well as we also created some carbon funds, which has mobilized carbon finance to these mitigation projects. Very recently, last year only, ADB has operationalized Climate Action Catalyst Fund, and that the fund size we are targeting to have 100 million. That fund will procure carbon credits. I mean, my co-panelists were talking about there are so many opportunities and projects, whether it is industrial decarbonization or other sectors can generate carbon credits. So these type of carbon funds can mobilize carbon finance and provide kind of stability, or a line of revenue stream can also be generated. And such kind of a fund, actually what we have experienced, that they also provide a strong price signal through its innovative, I would say, approach we do have, like we have fixed term, we have long-term contract, we have upfront financing mechanisms when it comes to these carbon fund. Just last slide. ADB has already committed to provide climate finance actually from its own resources in 2021. We have pledged to provide 100 billion of climate finance support to our member countries in the next 10 years from 2019 to 2030. And we are really progressing well. We have achieved 50% of that target. And as a very trusted partner of India, we definitely would like to support government of Tamil Nadu also to achieve their ambitious target to become net zero by 2070. Let me stop there, or before 2070, sorry.
Thank you. And it is always nice to be patient with finances. So thank you, Mr. Brij Mohan, for a very relevant and detailed presentation. And now I would request our next speaker, Ms. Ulka Kelkar, and she will be talking more about the policy on, and she has also the experience of sub-national climate action, so it will be relevant for the state governments. And she may also talk something about the Think 20 task force on clean energy, which she contributed during Indian G20 presidency. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, sir. We are very honored to be representing WRI India at this Tamil Nadu Climate Summit 3.0. We are very privileged to be working with the Environment Department, with the Tamil Nadu Green Climate Company on various climate change studies for the state. And we're also working extensively with MSME clusters in Coimbatore and Chennai on green skilling and building climate resilience. So thank you very much for the opportunity today. I'll talk a little bit about the global scenario first on carbon trading, then very little bit on the national scenario, and then finally on the state scenario for Tamil Nadu. So globally, you would have heard that we have a Paris Agreement on climate change. And as part of that, there is the possibility of trading carbon credits between countries. There are three types of possibilities, three types of options. One is that two countries can bilaterally agree to trade carbon credits. Another possibility is that a country like India can make a project, can register those projects with the UNFCCC, and they can sell the credits to another country. And the third is that maybe you don't have to sell credits at all. You can have voluntary cooperation without actually trading in credits. So these are the terms that we use for the Paris Agreement, where Article 6 of the agreement describes these different modalities. All of these are relevant for Tamil Nadu. Recently, you might have heard that at COP29, which happened in Baku, they finalized the rules of the Article 6 carbon trading. That is, they said that now the details are agreed on by all countries and trading can start. And this slide shows you some of the early actions that are happening. As you can see, 5 types of projects or deals or arrangements have already been authorized. Very interesting that the buyer in all 5 of these is Switzerland. So they are actually moving fast, and it will be interesting for Tamil Nadu to also find these kinds of partnerships. On the left-hand side, what you can see is that apart from this UNFCCC type of trading, there are many countries and states that have their own trading arrangements. For example, Singapore actually taxes companies on basis of carbon. But it also allows these companies to buy carbon credits from other countries. So perhaps some of the companies in Tamil Nadu can have arrangements with this kind of other trading system. Similarly, the trading markets of Korea, Mexico, and California, they also allow something with the partnerships that they've already arranged. So if there is a kind of understanding between Tamil Nadu and California that we will recognize each other's credits, then this is also one possibility for the future. Moving from the global scenario to the Indian scenario, many of you may be aware that the government of India has announced an Indian national carbon market. There has been a gazette notification. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency is preparing for the rules and governance structure of this market, and many, many details are getting finalized step by step. What's interesting to note is how the domestic market differs from what will be internationally traded. Many of the actions that we are already doing on renewable energy, solar, wind, hydro, and so on, are actually not eligible for international trading. What the government of India wants is solar plus storage, wind plus storage. Innovative or more difficult or more expensive technologies like green hydrogen or green ammonia or sustainable aviation fuel or carbon capture utilization and storage. So it's interesting to think of these more difficult, more expensive emerging technologies as an option for attracting international climate finance, what my previous speakers have also highlighted the need for. Within the domestic market that we have, there are two parts to it. Again, the large companies in Tamil Nadu are already subject to the Perform, Achieve and Trade or PAT scheme, which is for energy trading, which has been in operation for a decade or so. How does this energy trading scheme eventually transition into a carbon trading scheme? That is what the Bureau of Energy Efficiency is step by step laying out. And many of you would have the opportunity to participate in the consultations that they are organizing city by city and taking on board the views of the businesses. So we have an obligatory mechanism already under the Perform Achieve Trade scheme, and this will become the compliance mechanism under the domestic carbon market. As of now, of the 13 industries that are subject to PAT, 9 are being included, and intensity targets are being rolled out or identified for a few years from now. But there's also the possibility of an offset mechanism. There are many industries which are not subject to PAT, but they can also provide credits. And that's the second part of it. They can sell credits to voluntary buyers. Like many of you would have seen nowadays when you buy an air ticket, it sometimes asks you, do you want to offset the emissions from your air travel by purchasing carbon credits? Or sometimes even conferences like this, when they want to be carbon neutral, they purchase carbon credits in the voluntary market. It could be from farmers, or it could be from a mango orchard, or it could even be from the kind of mangroves project that was earlier talked about. So this slide tells you how step by step there will be a phased transition from the present to fiscal year 2028 and beyond, from the energy trading system that we have in the country to a carbon trading system that will be linked eventually to the international market. Please feel free to take photographs. I'll not go into the details of these. The one takeaway from this picture, which is the governance structure of the proposed carbon market, is that it is complicated. It has many, many different parts to it. And anytime that there is complexity, there is more cost. Anybody who wants to take their project through this entire system will have to go through many steps. It will take time. There will be many layers of scrutiny. But this is important because without that kind of scrutiny, we don't want to generate carbon credits which are not genuine carbon credits. So the rules have to be strong, there has to be integrity in the system, and it has to make sure that there is monitoring and verification at every stage. We should make sure that we are not double counting credits. If credits are being used for India's NDC, India's own domestic targets, then the same credit cannot be used to sell abroad and use for another country's climate targets. So hence you have all of these regulator, administrator, exchange, registry, and so on. But hidden in this diagram over here is also opportunity for project developers, for consultants, for monitoring and verification agencies. What we need to make sure is that we don't add to the transaction costs of the system, and we try to build capacity to navigate this complex system smoothly. I'll now come to my last few slides, which relate to Tamil Nadu. And over here, you can see this is the Tamil Nadu State Energy Calculator that has been developed, and it is an open source model that is available online. The orange bar that you see is for emissions which are like a high emissions scenario. The middle one is for a low emissions growth scenario. And the lowest line is if there is a big push for renewable energy and energy efficiency and climate action. The gap that you see between the high scenario and the climate push scenario is actually the possible opportunity that there is for Tamil Nadu to reduce its emissions, to potentially to participate in the carbon market, and also to create more income, more finance for the kinds of actions that would lead to this saving of carbon. I'm highlighting on the left-hand side some difficult actions, different, innovative, expensive. For example, with renewable energy, with the big coastline that the state has, offshore wind is more expensive, but it is really something that the state could try to participate in. Transport, CNG buses are being discussed. EV buses could potentially be financed to the carbon market. On the industry sector, Tamil Nadu, in its $1 trillion vision that it has for the economy, it has identified certain priority industries. For example, leather is there as one industry, food processing is there. Perhaps the MSMEs that are part of these industries can also be brought into this carbon trading system through the big companies that are actually subject to the targets. And provided that there is hand-holding of the MSMEs, they might be able to benefit from some of the finance that comes in through this carbon trading. And finally, mangroves has already been highlighted as a big opportunity for Tamil Nadu. So as the international, national voluntary market develops, Tamil Nadu state can go for several kinds of preparedness activities. Identify the opportunities for carbon trading, ready the institutions that would be monitoring such projects, develop partnerships with potential buyers, and finally monitor at every stage the kinds of activities that are being done. I'll end with just one or two very brief slides on a carbon market research study that we had done with India's leading businesses. What we found, what industry was saying to us, and what we found through this experimental research that we did, was that first of all, you need strong targets. Without strong targets, there will be no demand and the prices will crash. Then you need wider sectoral coverage. You need a diversity of industries, which is how you will get differences in prices and scope for trading. Third, you need effective enforcement. You need penalties, otherwise at the end of it, no trading will happen. You need interim targets, not just something at the end where you buy the credits. And you need standardized emission factors and MRV templates for the reports that are being submitted to be comparable. All of these points are what Tamil Nadu state can keep in mind in order to develop its own market. The government should also have supporting policies aligned with global best practices, and also think about things like, for example, what if there is an economic shock, like a recession, or as happened during COVID? If there is an economic shock, production falls, emissions will fall. Does that mean credits can be generated? That would not be genuine emission reduction. And so intensity metrics rather than absolute metrics are a way of protecting the system from economic shocks. We also spoke about price controls, and industry basically said they were not in favor. Let the market perform. Let us not try to over-regulate the market, but let's try to have long-term signals and longer compliance cycles so that the market can slowly gain experience with trading. We also looked at different types of companies, some which have very little experience with carbon reporting, and others which have a lot of experience with carbon trading. And we identified the kinds of capacity building activities that would be needed for each type of industry. So with that, thank you very much for this opportunity. And we'll be very happy if you would look at some of our research which is available online.
So, thank you, Ulka, and my apology for rushing you through, but these were very important policy prescription for the state governments, and I noticed that our Principal Secretary was also present here during your presentation, so state has taken note of this. Now, may I go to our last distinguished speaker, Ishrat, and she will be talking about more again related to what Tamil Nadu can do from the last few years' experiences.
Thank you so much. I would first like to thank the department for providing this opportunity to me, and it has really been a 2-day of crash course into what department is doing, what Tamil Nadu is doing to mitigate climate and climate change and also build adaptation. I'm actually part of Wanted to Talk, which is the Trillion Tree Initiative of World Economic Forum. It may sound like something which is a tree planting initiative. I want to clarify at the very forefront that it is all about raising business ambition for ecosystem restoration. In my talk, I would be mostly focusing on natural climate solutions, or financing for natural climate solutions, which is basically a subset of nature-based solutions which focuses on forest conservation, forest restoration, all kinds of natural ecosystem restoration, which can include ocean as well as terrestrial ecosystem. A lot has actually been said about the policy compliances as well as the market mechanism, so I'll skip that part, but I wanted to bring your attention to this particular piece. So this is actually the latest report which has been published by World Economic Forum, which is almost a 20-year work that Forum has been doing. And this year, they have found that most of the industries and most of the people are actually looking at top 5 risks globally are actually related to nature and climate. So we have extreme weathers, we have biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, we have critical change in earth systems, and then natural resources shortage. And how this is also impacting, this is impacting each of our lives, and this is also impacting big businesses. The second part that I want to focus on, bring your attention to, is about how much potential natural climate solutions does it, if we invest in nature, which I believe is one of the best and most sophisticated technology if done right and invested well, can help in mitigation of GHG, which is almost 1/3 of the total GHG. This is mostly on the policy landscape. I think my fellow panelists have already spoke about it, so I'll just skip this part. Again, market mechanisms have already been spoken about. I actually want to bring your attention to one of the surveys that we did with the industries in collaboration with Confederation of Indian Industries and IORA Ecological Solutions, where we were basically trying to understand that what is the current investment of industries in natural climate solutions and how much they are investing, how much they want to invest in, say, next 5 years, 10 years down the line, and what are the barriers that they are facing as of today, what is really not letting them invest into natural climate solutions. So we did this survey, and 4 major points that came out of it was, first was clarity on regulation and standards. A lot is coming on the domestic carbon market. Green credit scheme is also coming up, so they need more and more clarity. How the standards will follow, how the certification and compliances will boost. Second is collaboration. So we understand that we are talking about nature, and when we are talking about forest and trees and mangroves and all kinds of ecosystem, there has to be a collaboration, strong collaboration with the government, with the communities, because industries cannot do it all alone. It really needs land, it needs spaces where it can happen. Third was sourcing high-quality carbon projects. I think there is constant question around what is the quality of the carbon and what is the integrity of the carbon credits that are being generated. Looking for projects which are very high integrity, high quality carbon projects and have a very strong MRV mechanism in place. And last but not the least was around strengthening sector-specific business cases. We understand that each of the sector has different dependency on nature, has different risks on nature, and they are also impacted by climate in a different way. So what is the sector-specific nature-positive transition for different industries? For apparels, it can be different. For mining, it would be different. And for pharmaceuticals, it would be different. So what could be the possible transition? Actually, World Economic Forum, WBCST, is already working on around 12 to 15 sectors on nature-positive transition. We have published around 6 to 8 reports already, and over the year, next 2-3 years, we'll be publishing it for the other sectors also. We also tried to look at, okay, what is the current investment of private sector as well as government, which is going in activities which harm our nature, and this is around 7 trillion. And out of that 7 trillion comes 5 trillion comes from the private sector. This may include the subsidies as well, fossil fuel subsidies and other things, but then that's the amount that's coming from the private sector, and that's where it's important that both private sector and government come together to see, okay, what can be done given this scenario. This is again almost similar slide showing, okay, 7 trillion is going into, which is hampering the nature, 5 trillion coming from private sector, whereas the investments which are coming into natural climate solution is just 35 billion from private sector, which is way less, it's very stark. During this, when we did this survey, one of the significant finding was also that almost 86% of the respondents, businesses, said that there is a business case for investing in nature, but then these are some of the barriers that we feel, and if these could be worked out over here, maybe it would be easy for us to transition into more nature positive work. This actually, I especially put this here because these are some of the concerns that the businesses also shared around green credit program. Now it's coming, notifications are coming out, it has been gazetted and everything is happening. Now these are some of the, I would say, challenges that they shared, but then if you look at the list, you'll realize that most or maybe some of these challenges are perceived. They may not be true. Like they are talking about monitoring, I think GCP has given a mechanism for monitoring. GCP has given a bit clear understanding of how the transition will happen, how the businesses can participate in that. So some of these concerns that the businesses have posed might be misplaced or might be coming from the place where they may not be fully aware of what GCP entails. But then some of these are also true, to be honest, that like, there are certain concerns that they are raising. So these are some of the concerns, and that's why like the main purpose of putting it here was this, that we really feel that there is a point where a lot of businesses want to transition. They are at least concerned and they are looking for solutions, and this is the time when public-private partnerships or like, engaging with those businesses who are already at least thinking about doing this would really help. So there are, I would say, not all businesses, but then there's a huge population of businesses who want to do it. So having deeper conversation, having clearer understanding will really help transition the state, the businesses, as well as the country into a more nature positive state. Thank you all. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Israt, for taking care of the lunch time for all of us, because certainly this panel would not like to come in the way of the lunch. It's a difficult task for me to sum up. I would not try to do sum up, but just some recurring thoughts on that, because we are already into the borrowed times. We are living on credit, not on carbon credit, but time credit. So we started the session with a very good presentation on decarbonization and how should we go about the carbon credit life cycle. And then it was a good talk on particularly on the carbon footprint, and it was particularly addressed to the audience from the younger generation, that how that carbon footprint on daily life uses or industrial uses can be reduced, and how can we redistribute existing resources towards less carbon footprint. And of course, Mr. Rambabu also talked about the pump storage and the green hydro thing, which is very, very relevant for Tamil Nadu economy. Then we moved towards the financing side, and I think picture is not so worrisome what was presented in the last presentation. So we are seeing that multilateral financial institutions, regional financial institutions, they are coming up. Finance is doubled, you mentioned. Only worry will be that whether that doubling is coming as a top-up or it is just a substitution from the existing flow of credit from these institutions. We certainly have challenges which you have enumerated on public funding, risk, and fragmented approach. Then it was a very interesting talk from Olka on global, national, and state perspective on international market, how to do buying of carbon credit. Then you have also dwelled upon the white list, which is kind of a blueprint for the state government, that whether do we want to enter into those products and tap those resources, and particularly the shift from PAT to compliance, can we get ready for that? And Tamil Nadu should take lead in tapping, particularly what you mentioned, the opportunities on offshore wind as well as EV. Because offshore wind, if I know 22 states have got those projects cleared from Government of India, and Tamil Nadu is one of those states. So we should look forward towards that. Last presentation was certainly that global risks. And Tamil Nadu, being a coastal state, is certainly more prone to those vulnerability, and the nature of negative flow and the quantum of negative flow is certainly very alarming, that when we are talking of something of the order of $7 trillion of negative flow, which is supplemented or offset by just $35 billion with B for Bombay, is, is a very, very challenging scenario. So with that, I would thank all the panelists and the audience for your patience, though we started late, but we have tried to not eat up to the time. And thank you the organizers, and wish this summit all the success, and looking forward to some of the policy implementation while dealing with files in Commercial Tax Department. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. If we may also request our session chair to present our speakers with mementos and souvenirs, extending our heartfelt thanks. It's been a lovely session. If I may please request the mementos be brought out. The session itself, I think we had a good mix of a silver lining and some staggering statistics right there. And I think we all have a lot to talk about over lunch as well. But before we officially break for lunch, if I may please request the mementos be brought to the stage to present to our speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, on this very stage, as we draw the session to a close, we also have a very special launch that we want to share with you. And this is, I have to say, something that a lot of us in the audience will benefit from. Before we officially begin, we'd like to request the mementos, if you may excuse me for a quick second. All right, if I may request our session chair to present our speakers. Mementos, thanking them for their candid thoughts and, of course, for their well-researched presentations here on stage. Mr. Deepak Srivastava, thank you so much, sir. Ms. Ishrat Jahan, thank you so much, ma'am. We'd also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to Ms. Ulka Kelkar. Mr. Brij Mohan. And Dr. P. Rambabu. If I may also request Dr. Rambabu to present our session chair with a token of our gratitude on behalf of all of us here at Tamil Nadu Climate Summit. Dr. Rambabu, if I may request you to present our session chair. At this juncture, as promised, we have a lovely launch coming our way. So to officially facilitate that, if I may request our speakers and session chair to remain on stage, I'd also like to take the opportunity to invite Dr. P. Senthilkumar IAS Avargal, Principal Secretary to Government, Environment, Climate Change and Forest Department, to join us for this launch. Now, this is a double launch of sorts. The brief document on wetland, we're also going to be seeing the launch of the health card on 65 wetlands. Ladies and gentlemen, with the brief document itself, we're going to take a look at a fantastic study and all the details compiled by the Center for Environmental Studies, Anna University, under the Tamil Nadu Wetlands Mission. This also includes 20 Ramsar sites within the state itself. The brief document of wetlands is a comprehensive report. It captures the essence of each wetland, location, type, biodiversity, ecosystem services, potential threats, the entire works. We are also launching the Wetlands Health Cards, which provide a detailed assessment of the current condition of all 6 wetlands. So they evaluate once again the key aspects, this time area, hydrology and catchment, biodiversity, governance across 9 specific indicators. Ladies and gentlemen, a loud round of applause as we welcome 2 fantastic launches. Also, we have yet another launch coming up on stage following this photo op. I think that is going to be just as exciting, which is a compendium of 75 prioritized wetlands of Tamil Nadu. To join us on stage for the next launch, if I may invite Dr. Purvaja, Director, National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management. Welcome, ma'am. If I may request our dignitaries to please remain on stage. We have yet another launch, which is going to be, like I said, a compendium of 75 prioritized wetlands. We have Dr. Purvaja joining us on stage. Good afternoon, ma'am. This compendium, ladies and gentlemen, has been prepared by the National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management under Tamil Nadu Wetlands Mission for the widespread dissemination of information on ecological and socio-economic importance of the wetlands. We have our panelists, our session chair, Dr. Purvaja and Dr. Sendil Kumar IAS Avargal, all of them officially launching the compendium on 75 wetlands. Documents that are going to be playing important roles in mitigating climate change impact. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am. And a very special thanks with a loud round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for our panelists who shared their fantastic thoughts on climate financing. With this, of course, we now break for lunch. We look forward to hosting you back here within the next 45 minutes as we have two exciting sessions that are coming up in the second half of the day. Thanks once again for joining us. We'll see you back here in 45 minutes.